Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have part 1 with David Niles and Adam Minihan. We'll see a video by Chris Stefanik and much more. Well, welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guests are David Niles and Adam Minihan. They are the host of the Catholic Man Show. So tonight they're going to share with us some of their themes and things they like to talk about on their podcast and weekly radio show.
So this is a 2-part episode, and we're going to be covering a lot about fatherhood, about true masculinity, and about a lot of virtues that we need as men in today's culture and society. So we're now going to a Chris Stefanik video.
What's that, Maeve? They take themselves too seriously? I'm going to talk about why it's so dangerous spiritually that you take yourself too seriously, the virtue you've never heard of that will help you stop, and why I have half a beard. Eutrophilia is the virtue of good, clean, wholesome, non-idiotic fun. And it's really more difficult than it might seem. You see, because your brain did not evolve to help you just have fun. Your brain evolved to keep you alive. And that means your brain evolved to take you very, very seriously. St. Philip Neri was a saint that everyone took very seriously. In fact, everyone regarded him during his lifetime as a living saint. And he was invited to this big reception where all the top brass of Rome was there, both from the state and from the church, and he showed up with half his beard shaved. It was his way of telling everyone around him, don't take me too seriously. It was his way of rejecting worldly honors and not taking himself too seriously. You see, when we don't take ourselves too seriously, we take ourselves and all our worldly concerns off the throne of our hearts, which makes room for Almighty God. G.K. Chesterton said that the devil fell because of gravity, and angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. Do you take yourself lightly? This is more powerful and more important than it might seem. You see, you might have a lot of problems within your marriage, but when you bracket those problems and you can say, you know what? Even before we work all our marital problems out, which never happens, by the way, we're gonna just have fun together. That's my way of proclaiming to my wife that we in our relationship, it's more important than whatever we're dealing with. If you're having hard times paying the bills, but you have fun with the kids anyway, that proclaims to your children the message of the gospel, that the body is more important than clothes, that life is more important than food, and that we as a family are more important than the bills that I'm stressing out about. Eutrophilia. You need it, not just to have fun, but to be holy. And in the midst of all the chaos of life, to live the life that Jesus Christ is calling you to.
Well, Adam and David, welcome to Life on the Rock. And you two started up a podcast called the Catholic Man Show. And can you tell us a little bit about Catholic Man Show? What is it?
You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
This is how we always start the show. It's like, you go or I go. You go or I go.
Who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
No, so we started a Catholic radio station in Tulsa. And when we started the Catholic radio station, we had EWTN content. Yeah. And we wanted to start a show that was kind of geared towards men our age that were just starting families. And so we decided, hey, we own this station. Yeah. We can do our own, we can have our own show.
Right.
And so we talked to each other, tried to figure it out, and we started this radio show called the Catholic Man Show. And originally it was only going to be for Tulsa. And at that time, it was like 2016, podcasting was kind of still just kind of becoming a thing. Yeah. So we're like, well, we'll just throw it up on the internet as well. And it's since turned into, we're on 17 different radio stations and then a podcast.
It's amazing. So your podcast is about an hour or so?
Yeah. Yes.
And one of the interesting features I thought was, with every episode, you start off with kind of a beverage, a manly beverage.
Yeah.
And then you talk about gear, manly gear, and then you kind of go into a specific topic. And who came up with that idea? What is kind of the story behind that?
Well, that was really the whole idea for the show was Adam's idea. I don't know where he got it from, but he did have at least one good idea. So every episode we do 3 things, as you mentioned. We open, review, and enjoy a manly beverage. We highlight a man gear of some kind, and then we have a topic. Our show is all about the idea of promoting the art of virtuous living for men. And so the drink, it's all about having a good leisure, a nice holy conversation. And there's something about, they say you don't know someone until you've shared a meal with them. There's something kind of similar about having a drink. Like
absolutely.
you get to know someone in a just
kind of open up.
A more personal way, right, exactly. And then with the man gear, there's all these like manly things, like a pocket knife. There's something,
handkerchief.
Or a handkerchief.
That's been one of our gears.
There's just something manly about it. Well, if there's something manly about a knife, well, by talking about a knife gives us kind of a new perspective on manliness, so we can examine who we are through these other things. And then typically the topic is about virtue of some kind.
I was kind of looking at all the episodes. Y'all have done about 270 episodes, I guess, in the past 5 years. So to come up with drinks or a new gear, nevertheless a topic to talk about, that's quite a bit of work. And actually, whenever I was reading the menu list there, I was like, man, they've thought of everything. So it was just kind of interesting seeing all that. And but actually, with the topics, a lot of it's geared towards masculinity and just kind of rediscovering or kind of recultivating the art of what it is to be a man. So what is that today? What does it mean to be an authentic man living in today's society?
Well, I mean, obviously we look to Jesus as our example, right? Self-sacrificial love, putting others before you. As a husband, you enter the union of matrimony, and you're saying, "I'm giving myself to you." Just as Christ on the cross says, "I'm giving myself over to you," and so Jesus is the perfect example of a man. And so I think that you look at him, you look at the cross, and you say, that's what we should be.
And I've always thought too, with being the role of the man, it's, there's this role of the priest, that you're offering our sacrifice, and that you're offering yourself, and to provide, to protect, to educate, and to all that. And I was blessed to see that in my own father's life, and I think that was real important. And both of you are married, and you're both with 4 kids, I understand.
4 kids,
And so, and y'all have been married, I think, roughly about the same years or so?
I've been married to Haley for about 9 years.
9 years?
And almost 7.
Yeah, okay. And so in the importance of being a man today, especially as a father, what is that role of really to cultivate, the role of the father in the family and how that plays out into the children's lives?
Yeah, really being a father is unique. And it's, when you think about it, a privilege. We share a name with God, the Father, okay? And just that alone. I mean, you could really meditate on how profound. I mean, so the role of fathers is an important one, obviously, right? So it's up to you to represent, especially when your kids are young, I think, God the Father, so that you are the one that they can identify with as someone who loves them, who takes care of them, who's provides for them, who protects them. And especially when your kids are young, I think that's what you should be, that's what your fatherhood should be about,
I think now both of you are working and you're raising a family, but you're also working with the podcast, and that obviously takes a lot of work, probably a lot of preparation. So what is kind of some of the technique to kind of balance all that out?
One of the great things is that Dave and I live across the street from each other.
Well, there you go.
So being able to live across the street from each other makes it a lot easier, right? So so every week, it's really interesting. We've kind of gone through all the virtues and things like that, but if you just stop and reflect on your life, you realize all the things that you have to go through, that you have to work through, whether it be your prayer life, whether it be your relationship with your wife, with your coworkers, with your children. And if you stop and just kind of reflect on that and meditate on that, it's like, well, if I'm experiencing that, other men probably are too. We should talk about that on the show. So a lot of times it's just a self-reflection of, here's what we're going through right now. Let's dive into it a little bit.
And it does take some time, and credit needs to be given to our wives.
Yes.
It's really it's something that we have to do in cooperation. I mean, everything in marriage is a cooperation, and this is certainly no different, because they need to be ready. They understand that they have to, take care of things with the family while we're recording. We try to do it after the kids go down. But
that's good.
Yeah, it works out. It's a group effort.
Okay. Well, we have to go into a break, but when we come back, can we go into some of the virtues?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sounds fun.
All right. Well, Adam and David, welcome back. And one of the things I wanted to I've seen is that y'all have a good friendship together. And I think that's really important. And we don't always think of maybe friendship as a virtue, but I think there's a big difference between, especially our influences in friendship. So there are good friendships, but then there's also bad friendships. Those friends that you kind of do need to get away from. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Adam and I have been best friends since kindergarten.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for a long time. Aristotle, he's kind of the one who literally wrote the book on friendship.
Oh, okay.
And he says there's 3 different kinds of friendship: friendships of utility, friendships of pleasure, and then what he calls an authentic friendship. And just putting a Christian perspective on what he's written is basically, if you have friends who aren't leading you closer to Christ, they're not real friends.
Right.
They might mean well for you,
Yeah.
but if they don't, you know, there's a principle we have in Catholicism that you cannot give what you do not have. Okay, and so if they don't if they're not Christ followers, you know, if they don't have Christ to give, then they're not going to be able to lead you to Him. And so, as a Christian, it's important that we surround ourselves with people who are going to be helping us get to our end goal, right? Because they say that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And you know, I can tell you in marriage that's true. Since I've been married, now I'm more like my wife, which is great, which means I'm holier. And her jokes aren't as funny, you know, like
She used to be a lot
she used to be
funnier.
hilarious, and now it's like, you tell jokes like your husband, you know.
That's not as funny.
I'm sorry, honey.
Yeah, but you know, true friends, authentic friends, don't let friends sin.
Yeah.
And once you realize, like once you have that understanding, then you also realize.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Oh, is that something you have to? Is that something we need to discuss off air?
Right.
But once you realize that, and you start realizing that, you also realize as a father the importance of surrounding your kids with good friends, with good holy families around them, so they can see that we're all on the same page. We all have the same foundation, which is Christ, and we're all going towards the same goals. And that way they see it in other families, so it reinstills what you're doing in your home with other families as well.
Well, I think it's interesting because I went through public school growing up. I don't know if y'all did, but in my experience, you know, I had a lot of friends, but a lot of what they were taught and valued or trying to promote or sell to me, it was like, whoa, that's just kind of way out there from anything my father has ever said. And so I always kind of looked at, you know, as a moral compass, really the father figure. And all I had to do was just kind of look to my dad on that issue. So I always think that's really important, just to know the right and wrong, because usually, you know, fathers know best a lot of times for their sons. And they know the dangers out there, and especially like in sports or something. A lot of guys are pretty rowdy, you know, and like you said, they mean well, but it's like what they're wanting to do or whatever is like, wait, you know, it's like, I can't do that.
Right, yeah.
So I think just to have that father figure step in and really be that moral guidance and light in the lives of young men is so important.
And protecting their innocence.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, being a protector doesn't, you know, you have this idea that, you know, the father's the protector, provider, and establisher. Part of being a protector is shielding them from evils. You know, is guarding them, whether it be on the computer, whether
there's
it
a
be,
lot out there.
I mean, there's a lot out there that it's just attacking our kids. And so as the dad, you are like called to be the protector, to keep their innocence as long as possible.
Yeah, you have to be vigilant, and
do.
sometimes you have to be the bad guy. You know that. You know, we're not going to have. You're 12. You don't get a cell phone. You know, just you know, your kids might not like that, but that's your job. You've got to do it, because if you don't do it, who will? Nobody.
And I always remember just a principle, even when I grew up, it was like my parents actually both said it. It's like your values, your morals and values may change, but don't expect ours to change. And I always thought that was actually kind of a good rule, because it seemed like, you know, I saw my parents have a healthier relationship, and you know, they I think did things right, and so I was always kind of blessed to see that. So there was always kind of this clear distinction about what to do and what not to do. And so I think just having, both parents actually having that voice that's unified, on a lot of these issues, I think is so critical today. And especially, in the culture and society, it's hard to protect your children.
Yeah.
I mean, just driving down the road, you'll see some billboard.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
I
got
know,
some
man. It's frustrating.
model out there, and it's
Right.
like, well, I can't even,
I guess we have to avoid that part of town.
Right, yeah. So, and I always think, the world's not waiting, for the child to go out into the world. It's looking to go into the home, and there's 1,000 ways that happens. And I think anytime you're on the internet, like you said, with cell phones, that's a big one. So, and just any kind of movies, I think one of the struggles, especially with the young men, is you want to fit in, but where do you draw that line? Especially as a father, how do you teach that? So.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be the dad who's just always saying no. Because that's just not fun. You want to be able to give good things to your kids. You don't want to just be the one who just, no, you can't have this, you can't have that. I know all of your other friends are doing this. And when your kids say, all of my friends have a cell phone, for instance, it might be true.
Yeah.
I mean, every other kid who's ever said that in the past was exaggerating. Well, like these days, actually, it might be true.
Yeah.
All of them might have a cell phone, but that doesn't mean you're going to get one. But it's because I want to give you something better, right? And so you have to really make sure to follow through there, to not just say no, but to offer them something, like, no, I'm not going to give you a phone, but we can go fishing this weekend, or, something else.
Yeah. And one last question, how can we learn more about the Catholic Man Show?
So if you go to myspace.com, no, I'm just joking. That joke probably doesn't even hit for a lot of people. They don't even remember what MySpace is. You can go to thecatholicmanshow.com or look us up on any podcast player.
Okay. Well, Adam and David, thank you for being on Life on the Rock.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
I think a great point they made on the show tonight is about fostering authentic friendship or cultivating friendship with other men. And even that part about the manly beverage and the man gear and stuff, to have some things that can be done in common can help foster friendship, can give you a reason to come together to talk. And it seems like that's pretty important for guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to see their friendship, they've been friends, I think, since they were like 5. And now they're in their mid-30s, and they've carried that along. They've grown up together. They have their families, and they do this work, to really kind of promote what we need to hear today, especially as men. And actually, a close friend of theirs who just lives a mile down the road has been another guest on Life on the Rock, Sam Guzman.
Right.
So, and it's very, that's a blessing to have, just a strong connection with other men that are deeply interested in living out the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
Because we need that. We need that structure, and we need that kind of accountability too, and really direction in a lot of places.
Right, and I think you see, like, values unite people, shared values. So especially in Christianity, we believe in Jesus Christ, we believe in a virtuous life, living a holy life. That will foster friendship. Yeah. And authentic friendship should lead us to Christ. So we should be aware of that. If we're hanging out with guys that are leading us away or towards Christ, cultivate those ones that lead us toward Him and make sure it stays focused on a godly life. You have fun, but also it's got to be godly.
Well, I think too today, just in the culture and society, there's so much against the church and the faith and just good values that we do uphold and believe as Catholics that are constantly being attacked.
Right.
And so we do a lot of times need other men. We need to reinforce, to give us that strength, to really go out into the world and live our faith.
Right. So that's our challenge this week, is to foster, for the guys out there especially, to foster male friendships, to center it on Christ. We need each other, and we can encourage each other and point each other in the right direction. So we'll send you to that vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.
Artifacts, hey yo, Artifacts, yeah. Yeah, man, true warrior.
Eyes wide, prime, ready for the highest climb. God starts writing in stride to pin horizon lines, watching for the rise and shine, brighter by design. Light the world on fire with the gleam in his eye. I got a long list of living that I'm dreaming to try. I'll put my steps in any order, stepping evenly by. I took a bite out of the sun to get my piece of the pie. I tried to do it on my own, my roller recently dried. I hold a shooting star right in the palm of my hand. I'm giving pieces to the masses for the people's advance. Laughing in the face of death and evil's command. I didn't know what but my maker, not the feet of a man. We're scared to death, we're scared to move. Comfort got you shook, froze, fearing what you lose. Gotta illuminate a rhythm to jumpstart their hearts. Lighting your soul, just gotta do your part.
Yeah, brilliant rays for the world to see. Hands and feet of his divine mercy. Shine your light when the darkness be. And if it's time for invasion, time for invasion.
Light coming and now the night running. Got plans to advance my stance to fight something. One chance in a dangerous dance that